Hello, everybody. Before we start our panel, I just would like to go roughly with some brief figures for 2014 for you to know what's basically has happened. So the first thing, everybody, when we speak about tech startups, everybody's thinking investments, 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 money, 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 money. So what basically you see is what happened before. Was accumulating effect. Up to 2013, it was invested into Lithuanian tech startups around 50 mil. What happened after that? Just a year. So it was almost the same sum. That means, it's on the rise, it's rising very, very greatly. It usually takes, somebody has to invest as well in a fostering an ecosystem. I don't want to stop on that, but just want to say, and we're going to hear it today, is it okay for a state to invest? And what we usually see is that if state invests at the right place at the right time, it's usually get a very decent return. So invest it, 300K, get out of taxes 2 mil. Any investor would love to, to see such of the return. What else? We now see a big movement of companies from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, especially the gaming ones, moving to the region. Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. It's a big topic nowadays. And it's even discussed, oh, we hear, these great companies, the, gaming side just moved these headquarters. What will happen? Is the gaming ecosystem, or mobile gaming ecosystem would develop? Is Vilnius would become the gaming garage? As well, not last but and not least, the life science sector, which as well is moving very rapidly and growing. You already see some of the startups, there were no startups at the startup fair from life science sector. Today, you see life science startups, you see electronics, you see robotics. So is the new thing, it's not only IT, not only software, but as well the hardware coming to town. And of course, what's the most thing, is there, only country, one ecosystem can put up itself behind the world? Should we synergize? Should we go together? And yes, 2014 was a year of the breakthrough for Lithuanian startups. And yes, you're about to hear you already hear, like there are already investment attracted directly from the Silicon Valley. And hopefully, tomorrow, today, you will hear more good news which coming to the Lithuanian startup ecosystem. Presented that, and I want to return to our panelists. I would like to ask Donatas, can you please tell me, was the year 2014, 2013, and all this growth have been, coming naturally, or you have done a lot of good work?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you for presentation and showing very nice numbers here for Lithuania. 2014 was a very successful year for Lithuanian ecosystem, startup ecosystem. But of course, it has a cost of working. I don't know, we've been working 5 years until then. And we're going to be continuing working, and I believe that 2014 wasn't the best year. 2015 is going to be better. And this is very normal, because when we invest, government invest, funds invest, more people are coming into the ecosystem. It's kind of natural, I would say that optimism is not that high that it was before. We kind of hoped for some miracles, maybe we can say, but big miracles didn't happen. We have normal, fast growth, and probably you mentioned already that many Russian companies, Ukrainian companies are coming to Lithuania. I think this is the turning point. That's what we wanted for a long time. We wanted to be the Baltics to become a hub for startups, right? So it's proven, right? Companies are coming to establish their startups here, to raise money here, to make business here, and this is amazing. This is what shows me that our work, all our work and all the ecosystem work, pays, because I don't want to measure success by investment got in the companies. This is a very good number. This is a very good number to show on presentation, but this is not something which is going to bring real money, real success, real businesses, real exits. I think more people, more talent, more companies in Lithuania, in the Baltics in general, that's what's going to bring, kind of drive our ecosystem further, and it's going to make even successful and even better. So that was turning point, and that was amazing, because I didn't believe that we're going to be able to attract these companies into Lithuania. I always thought that, you know, Berlin, Helsinki, London, this is the destination. But it seems that the idea of bridge between East and West, being in the Baltics, worked out at the end. You know, we're here. We have these all companies. My pipeline, I don't know, 25% now is guys from East. And that's amazing. And because it's not just amazing because they're coming. It's amazing because sometimes they are much better in technical sense than our local. They have more experience and have great ideas. So this is amazing. This is what I really like, and this is what is most important thing for me in 2014. Not big raises, not kind of sound investments or other things.
You know, you were speaking about companies moving. So do you have any numbers? I mean, how the gaming ecosystem has grown? So I mean, is it become double? What, you know, is it became the better talent, inflow of better talent? Is the products, games become better? What happened?
I think that our gaming industry in the Baltics, it wasn't existing. We had, I don't know, 10, 20 game studios here, right? Guys who done some games, I don't know, 100,000 downloads was a success. Yeah. Now we have top world-class studios, world-class people who already made money, real exits, and this is, I don't know, 1,000 times better than it was before, right? It wasn't existing, now we have it. That's amazing. That's amazing, and it's continued to grow. So, of course, in absolute numbers, it's I think we have, what, 20 companies moved from Russia, from Moscow to Vilnius, but the flow continues. And this is not just gaming. The gaming is very important. That's very interesting. That experienced people is very good. But many other companies are following. Investors are following. Talent are following. You know, this is what's important.
So you're saying basically that the companies attract the other companies, the talent attract the other talent, and the money attract the other money coming into the region.
I think this is a good example of, you know, we can call it Game Insight is a very known name in gaming industry, in startup industry, right? In Russia, in Moscow. They moved here and showed by the example that it's good. It's very good, right? So it's been followed, you know. Simple as that, you know. And if we can move, I don't know, I would love to move Yandex, okay, or Mail.ru, okay, but this is probably different stuff. So, yeah.
So would you see, like in a 2 to 3 years or 4 or 5 years time, somebody's, you know, biggies moving into the Baltics because to have an access to the European market?
I hope so. I hope that the movement is going to continue, and of course, this is another question of geopolitical situation. Maybe it has a lot of influence on these things, and I hope it's going to be stable. It will not be the driver of a companies going to the West, but I hope that Baltics, just because, will become the hub and the point of attraction for all the Eastern companies come here. So that's good for me. It's going to be much easier to invest into talented companies, and it's good for ecosystem.
What do you think is the factors of the, you know, companies choosing Baltics, let's say, versus UK, you know, Germany or the other ecosystems?
It's hard to say. You know, I never thought that, even then we always say that we're a very good country, very good Baltic countries for business. I never thought that we're better than Berlin, Helsinki, or London. We've been cheaper, for sure. That's true. We had people to work, but the situation changed a lot now. Probably this is the set of things, many things. But again, I would say this is probably a factor of luck
Yeah.
and a factor of our governmental agencies working with all these guys from Moscow in game studios, and we just had a good example, and that's it, and it goes, right? And we have snowball effect now.
Okay. Can we talk a bit? Thank you very much. You know, as well, I would like to, to talk about Estonia and cooperation between the Baltic states. You know, because you've guys seen so many success stories already so far, and as I know, you built up a new fund, right? So, do you think that it's worth investing into the Baltic states, attracting VC, and do we have enough talented people here? And is there any synergy, between the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, to be presented as the one region, not separate countries?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of treating countries together, and the minimum viable region I would think that makes sense to look at is Baltics and Scandinavia together.
Okay.
Baltics is good enough, and if we count the population, it's almost like New York, and New York is viable tech hub. But still, we should do more than just Baltics only. And we have created European Union, and it should be really as a union, but still it's not. Because we have all kind of legal borders, we have all kind of, every nation state is more interested about our own interest rather than what is good for a larger group. And that is a key reason why a number of problems exist in this world, like climate warming and so on. So I wouldn't say that, Estonia only, or Latvia only, or Lithuania only is something we should pay our attention to. Baltic cooperation is already getting to a pretty good state. So, for example, Baltic Innovation Fund, that is created by 3 Baltic governments and European Investment Fund. It's a perfect example of 3 governments and countries acting together. But it's not enough. We need to engage Scandinavia to it as well.
So what are from your standpoint, what are the factors which would get us into startup ecosystem version 2? What is needed? What is missing there?
So 2 components mainly. Actually, funding for startups in this region has been pretty low. And it has been different among Baltic states, and Lithuania and Latvia has done pretty well. Estonia not so well, actually. From local funds, we didn't have any Jeremy funds. But we are getting to a better place at this point of time. So, but funding, I guess, will be solved in really a couple of years in a quite good manner. And there is quite reasonably a lot of seed funding in place, and in Europe as well. And a lot of governments are investing a lot in seed, some of them already too much. But the funding for A rounds is really something that is kind of on a very thin layer across Europe. So we need to bring more A round funding to the market. Particularly about Baltics, what we are missing is senior talent. And I would say we are not guilty of that. So there was Soviet Union, and we lost a number of years. Yeah. And the layer of serial entrepreneurs, this is what I'm really waiting for and really excited to see the first signs of it. If you, for example, look at, you asked, is Baltic successful and so on. What is the criteria of success? What it really is. So for some it is establishing company, for some it's getting seed funding in place. I don't know, for some getting first customer revenue. For investors, the success is when the company is sold and money is in your account. So it's all trash until it's cash. And for example, from Estonia point of view, if I look at the meaningful exits, we had one looking at the latest years. We had one meaningful in 2012, Mozart Communications, that the US listed company Xilinx bought, and last year, GrabCAD. So basically, 2 meaningful exits in 4 years, and it's not enough. But actually, both of them, Mozart already has created serial entrepreneurs. The guy who founded Mozart is has done startup already for 9 months, the second one. And the founder of GrabCat, he's still in Stratasys, in the company that acquired, but already now he yesterday announced the initiative of bringing 50 3D printers to schools and getting the kind of, engineering thinking and product creation to the next level. So the successful entrepreneurs who have already made exits are already contributing back. And this is one of the key elements. It takes time, 5 to 10 years, but I think this is one of the elements that would take us to the next level as well. And maybe one item more to mention very briefly. With senior talent, we have really tried to bring in senior talent. And I mean CEOs, VP of sales, and so on. But we have failed several times because of the European Union tax laws country by country being completely different. And if you want to recruit CEO from UK who operates in Estonia, I don't know, Denmark, Sweden, and so on, tax structures are getting so complicated that candidates are just giving up. Or it is just too expensive for a startup to recruit that kind of person. So I would say European Union has a substantial step to take to unify really the market in a way that it can operate as one region, not as country by country.
Thank you. It's really interesting insights. And how would you think it would develop? There is already, as you said, access to capital. There are technical talent. Some of the senior talent are coming to the Baltics, either from East, some of them hired from West. Even though it's a complicated tax system, and even for the personal taxes, how would you think, from your standpoint of view, next 3 to 5 years, what is gonna happen? Being yourself an investor, how would you see it's gonna develop the Baltic market together, with all the Northern Europe region?
So I just look at the numbers of how many startups have got funding and what amounts have been invested in Estonia only. Mm-hmm. And it has been only increasing. And of course it includes some of the substantial success stories like Estonian-related TransferWise and so on. But 2012 it was 20 million, 2013 actually it was 30 million, 2014 it was 50 million funding to startups. And this year alone it has been last year was 70 million, this year alone it has been 50 million, including a couple of very successful transactions. So very clearly, it will continue increasing. The number of opportunities, number of startups creating, it's going to be increased. And in terms of funding, I'm very proud of the Baltic countries acting together to get the funding market sorted out through Baltic Innovation Fund. And we should look for more opportunities where all 3 Baltic countries act together on government level, because I think it has been really a mistake to create funds that can only focus on one or very, very small regional area. All the fund managers should be able to look at the wider geographical areas. And this is what governments really need to understand, that not only funds will benefit out of it in terms of getting potentially positive return, fund managers are benefiting out of it. If their track record is good, they are able to raise next fund for Lithuanian startups, Latvian, Estonian startups. Portfolio companies will benefit out of it. So everyone gains if we share more of the region rather than trying to keep it all, in one region, so in one country. As
I understood correctly, you're as well looking investments now all around the region. It's not only, you investing in Estonian startups.
So Ambient Sound Investments, where I'm coming from, we have had 25 companies really from around the world. From Asia, Singapore, Taiwan, China. We have had investments, we have investments in US, in UK, France, Poland, Finland. And we have been very lucky to have that kind of portfolio. Because if you're able to look at only one country or one small region, then you don't know what is the benchmark level in UK or in US. And you don't really fully understand where you need to take your startups. So we have seen it, and that's why we have preferred in our region as well to recruit as much outside senior talent as possible. And we continue to look at, as a next phase, investments in Europe. So really keeping the whole Europe open, and keeping the same thing in mind. We understand better how to develop Baltic startups if we have investments in UK, in Denmark, in Germany, maybe in US as well. Our region benefits it if investors are allowed to invest through the funds globally.
Thank you. Please, Donatas.
Yeah, Margus, just one question, because this is a discussion we have. Baltics and Nordics, we have a gap or not? Are we closing the gap? Are we treated as a one region in a European investor eyes or not? What is the feeling about that?
So I really think it starts from the institutional investors who invest in venture capital funds that provide source to startups. And right now, institutional investors are not fully looking at and acting as this is one region. We are not there yet. And again, it takes 5 to 10 years. And I think governments, Baltic cooperation is pretty good, but we really need to reach out to Finland, to Sweden as well, to Denmark, to Poland, to look at more regionally than it has been so far. I think from startups' point of view, you know, all Europe or the whole planet is like, startup culture is the same, you know, everyone understands and so on. But in terms of building the ecosystem, in terms of funding to startups, which is really critical, we have a long way to go.
So, Marija, you're writing for Arctic Startup, and I know you have a critical view on many topics as we speak today. So, you know, could you give your, view, because the guys were, speaking from their stand investor point, but from, you overlooking all the Arctic region and, all the Northern Europe. So what do you see? What's happening? How is Latvia fitting the Baltic market? And are we closing the gap, or is it still big?
Well, actually, what I see is that Baltics are very lucky, because we are considered, when it's convenient for us, we can be considered Nordics. When it's convenient for us, we can be considered Central Eastern Europe. When it's convenient to us, we can be post-Soviet countries. So we can even be considered Europe when we're going to the US. So it's very good. Actually, a couple of points which I could add why startups from Russia move here is because we have a lot of Russians. Everyone speaks Russian here, so it's easier for them. They have the same banks here, which they have in Russia, so it's easier for them. And we have super cool broadband, which is also making it easier for them. What we see in Arctic Startup, we try to cover this region as part of Nordic region, because I see it's beneficial for the Baltics, because Nordic region is very famous. I shared some graph on Twitter a couple of days ago, where the only graph you need to know about Nordics is that with the smallest population, it has the highest share of billion-dollar exits. So it's beneficial for the Baltics to be counted in there. About numbers from Latvia, Latvian Venture Capital Association actually released them finally this year in March. We had almost 100 million invested since 2007. There was no breakdown about specific deals publicly available, but it's a good start that we're becoming more transparent. Because the problem with Latvia in particular, what I see is that we are not that ready to disclose the numbers, because we have this fear that what if we tell the numbers? For example, we have this great blog post about deal flow from Lithuania, an Arctic startup written by Eddie from Trakdak. It's amazing. It was the most shared post in our blog. Everyone was very happy. And we had 30 Lithuanian startups saying, hey, I'm raising, and they had categories Series A, seed round, or I'm looking for an angel. They said particularly how much they want, for what purpose, and how to contact them. And it was very useful. It was widely shared everywhere, not only in the Baltics or in the Nordics. US investors were favoriting this tweet and sending it further. So, yes, I agree that we have to join the bigger ecosystems and be part of Baltics definitely. We are already, even in the European funds charge, we are already one region. We just have to collaborate more. Then be part of Nordics when it's useful for us, be part of Central Eastern Europe when it's useful for us. And if you go to Russia, say, hey, we're a post-Soviet country, we speak Russian, let's do business. So that's great.
So you've been very, business positive. I know that some, let's say, Swedish funds, as Uudam, operates in and have their scouts running around Latvia, scouting Latvian startups. But have you really seen that, it's because it's just Baltic Sea in between, but you really have you seen the really money flowing in from the Sweden or the other Nordic countries?
You should ask Andris Berziņš from Tech Hub because he's from Creandum. I haven't seen any information on that publicly available because, as I said, they don't disclose it. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure they're doing something. We have a lot of investments which are made as syndicates among Baltic countries together with Swedish angels, and you often don't know who those angels are because they say, well, we invested this and this Baltic fund with a couple of angels, and they sometimes say from which country. But it's from Germany, it's from Scandinavia, it's from UK, it's from the US. If the person discloses the name, then it's fine, but many don't. They just say in a couple of angels because they don't want to know until they exit.
But as well, have you seen the as well the Lithuanian or Estonian VCs or angel investors acting in Latvia and?
Yes, we actually had a quite close collaboration between our angel networks between Latban and Estban. Estban is more mature, so it's helping Latban develop. Latban just celebrated 1 year of operation, and it's doubled in size since founding, so new angels are joining. And we had one investment together with this Estonian company, Jobetical. Latvian angels and Estonian angels came together in Estonia, had a pitching event, and invested together. They're planning a new one soon, and probably they will be also bringing Estonians to Latvia to show our startups. And there are quite a few initiatives happening to unite angel networks, like we have European Business Angel Network. We also, in Global Entrepreneurship Network, which is across 157 countries in the world, they are initiating this Global Business Angel Initiative. In part helps to EBAN, so I hope this will also stimulate more collaboration.
Do you think it's enough what is done between the Baltic states and, looking from a Latvia standpoint, or this, should something missing? And you, as, part of the ecosystem, you see the gaps and, during our discussion we could cover and see how it could be, filled in.
Well, we shouldn't be saying enough at all. We should be saying the best, and even better. We should never have this complacent thing that enough or not enough. From Latvia, I see it's still not enough, but we're going there, actually. Last year was quite good for us. We had Latvian Guarantee Agency launch a startup event support program, which brought out a lot of ecosystem players which we didn't know of. They applied because they could get funding for their events, so we have a list of them. We had €500,000. We supported 75 events, and there are still, most of the budget is still left. We spent maybe more than 10% of it, so still a lot of money left for the events. And this helped us identify the players. And then in March, we launched Latvian startup community platform Labs of Latvia. We gathered all communities, all investors, and all startups from public sources, from AngelList, Crunchbase. We made the profiles, we reviewed them manually, we contacted them, put the info, and then we sent them an email in March. Look, we have the profile, you just have to push a button, claim it, and then you can use it, and you can reach out. And this platform has been quite a success. Honestly, we talked a lot to Startup Lithuania before launching it, because we liked the platform, so we thought we need something else, something like that as well. And we see this is quite good. For Estonia, we are at the moment writing a guest post about the 3 ecosystems. And I was looking for one place in Estonia where I could find information. There isn't such a place. It's quite fragmented, but in a sense it's also informal. So you don't need the government to step in. You already have Startup Leaders Club, all in one Skype chat. They are doing things. So if we could have one platform for outsiders to see it, I was talking to Copenhagen Yasenko, who launched this crowdfunded platform. They said, well, for an outsider to reach someone from Latvia, it's practically impossible. You go to Tech Hub, whomever Berziņš remembers to refer to you, that's it. So now we hope to bring it more online so people from all over the world can, okay, I want to see Estonians, here they are. I want to see Latvians, here they are. Just come over and contact them.
So, as we have, saying be a voice, not an echo, right? So, because you're overlooking all the region and you're part of such a great initiative as the Arctic Startup. So what it takes for us to be a voice, not an echo, because now we're kind of echoing what's happening in the world, right? But to put the voice in, we marked on the startup ecosystem map, but it's kind of, we're not shining that bright, right? So what for us it takes, what steps we should take? Do you see what we should do in like 3 to 5 years altogether?
Well, we should find 3 to 5 points saying why we are so awesome, why we are so special, what we can do that nobody else can. And this idea, which you mentioned about being the bridge between East and West, works really well. Because here everyone speaks at least 3 languages, like the local language, Russian and English. That's no question. It's already an advantage. And finding this internet thing is an advantage, costs are an advantage, talent pool is an advantage. We just take them and we present them. And then we add some examples, which we already have. We have successful exits. This scene is actually very interesting because it's young. There are lots of opportunities. We have just a few exits, and these people start to become investors, many for the first time. And this is a great opportunity to join it. So I think this is the message we should be giving. It could be one of the messages. Estonian e-residency was a great success as a marketing tool for Estonia. If you would have Baltic e-residency, then it would probably be good for the whole Baltics. I mean, the story when Japanese Prime Minister became a resident was all over the place. So we should stress what we have and sell it.
So, if I understood you correctly, we should present, Baltic startup ecosystem as one, because it's, as it was said, it's, population of New York, right? So it's kind of, in terms of the world, not that big. But if we could be able to present, being a #1 ecosystem, and it's Baltic and it's connected free states, so we might get it right then. Is it so?
Well, it would be just making more sense because otherwise we are too small. No VC has a separate list for Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. They have Baltic portfolio in the Baltics. So, yes, but we can stress differences between which is best. For example, if we have Game Insight here and we have lots of gaming companies here, we should tell it that gamers are in Lithuania. But otherwise, yes, definitely.
Thank you. Yes, please go on.
Do that for Arctic Startup to say that we're covering and Baltics, not just Nordics. Because now it's very kind of clearly said that we're covering Finland, Sweden, Scandinavia, and that's it. And Baltics are excluded out of this. So what should we do? Should we sign a petition or something?
I don't know. I think we just should call Dmitry and tell him and maybe write to him now. I will just call him after the panel and ask him why we're not saying it.
Just send the message because, he should do that, at least.
Okay.
Guys, there is an Arctic evening, so it's tonight, so you should visit and tell him directly. Vincent, you hear us speaking about, all the Baltic, Nordic region, and you overlooking, you see it from the side, what's extra could be done, to have our voice heard, to our system seen, to develop our startups, further.
Well, it was interesting to hear the conversation. And indeed, if you consider the ecosystem as a pipeline, and whether you look at it from a Baltics perspective, global, regional, it doesn't matter. It happens to be a pipeline. You start from IDs, turning into enterprises, and then they get sold, or they get converted into a bigger enterprise. Or like you were saying, the next entrepreneur comes in and restarts again. Funding is important. Creating clusters is important. Creating visibility is important. But you shouldn't forget the basic rules of business: supply and demand. You need to increase the pipeline from the start. And so we shouldn't convince the 65 startups here that they should become entrepreneurs. They already are, and now they need to grow. We should work at the source. How will you grow more companies? How will you help young entrepreneurs overcome the doubts of, should I quit my well-paid jobs or relative job security at a bank or a consulting firm and actually start and try and perhaps fail? And there's still a lot to do, not just here but all over Europe, to increase the size of the pipeline at the start. The next thing you can do, and this is probably more relevant for the discussion here, is and this idea of connecting, especially with foreign investors, foreign talent. And you talked about bringing senior talent from other countries. There's different ways you can do that. Granted, the tax systems will be an obstacle. You could do this, for example, through mentoring. With the European Commission, we recently launched Euro Mentors, which is a European network of mentoring association. Not so that we could create a bigger one or a better one, but so that all these mentoring organizations, which tend to be immensely local, would connect and give startups in a given country, say Lithuania, have the opportunity to have mentors from other regions. That is a way to capture at least part of the talent you would need to help them grow. The third one we didn't talk about is the demand side. That is, these startups, that fair, should be aimed not just at startups. It should be aimed at their customers. And the customers in most of these companies are larger organizations, government, banks, telcos, you name them. They need to transform as well. So if you want to, put the region on a map, it could also be by showing and leading the example of a digital, I would call it transformation center, whereby your big organizations are more digital than the ones you would find in the rest of Europe. Not just because you have strong clusters and strong concentrations of startups which are dying for a market. It isn't just about the regional market itself. It's about what are going to be the enterprise that will adopt all these technologies. And they need to be told as well. They need to be told about digital transformation, what these technologies can do for them. So in summary, working on the supply, increasing the amount of ideas and the amount of enterprises. The mentoring could be an option, but then really working on the transformation side, not just creating more startups, but working on the transformation of organizations that will buy these technologies, not just the VCs or the investors that will buy for financial purposes, but really to grow sustainable business. Gaming is a special example because that tends to be a digital market in and out of itself, digital products for digital consumers. But all the other ideas that I've seen here are still searching for a market. And by market, we mean clients, not just a regional landscape.
So, okay, and how do you think is, of course, it's everything, 110% I agree what you said, but still, do you think it's, it's a job of VCs, it's a job of governments, it's a job of the non-NGOs, to have a platforms for, finding the investor startups, customers, enterprises, or there is this, there's somewhere, we have a sense of a single market, right, which is not single there yet. So how it can be done, at least, how the Baltics could, stand out from the crowd and saying, okay, we are trying, either to serve the single market, either have some single platform for accessing the needs of the customer. Is there anything could be done?
Well, if you think of it, you could take the analogy of tourism, right? You have assets, you have your landscapes, you have sites, you're trying to attract, more people, in the country for a certain amount of time. So what are the tools and techniques you would use? It still uses the fundamental techniques of business, which is raise the awareness, profile the clusters. Gaming is one example, but you should probably have a couple, and diversify. One thing you could do also is connect clusters. What can gaming do for the enterprise, for example? You see loads of clustering of clusters, for example, between the music industry and the automotive sector. Leveraging the technologies and the know-how of these different clusters. So grow the clusters, definitely, since you already have early successes. What else could you do? I mean, like I said, using the same analogy is raising the profile of the region towards, the rest of the world. A few icons help. You know, we talk about exits, you know, even though it is a very narrow view to the ecosystem. And then you've said it yourself. You've all talked about an ecosystem. So an ecosystem is a combination of, you know, private and public players leveraging. There's so much money in the European, you know, Center, for example, European Commission, and I'm sure very few startups here actually even knew about that actually draw these funds to accelerate their growth. The Mentoring Association, as I mentioned, could be another one, and actually maybe create something that would make the people here, because you have those specialties and those peculiarities, that you would create mentors from the Baltics that would actually help other regions which didn't have the same, you know, buoyancy of entrepreneurship, and make them known. I mean, and to be on the map. And the next events you will run, the next conversation we'll have, will probably not about the Baltic region, but Europe at a minimum.
Thank you.
So, treating Baltic as one region.
Yeah.
From Baltics, we have 2 Lithuanians here, 1 Latvian and 1 Estonian. Would you agree that next startup events, all of them, will take place in Riga, somewhere close to airport?
Well, me absolutely yes. And I think that not only Riga, but let's say, as a good question.
If you imagine that Baltic is one country, it's just like one country where it makes sense to make startup events that is meaningful for all Baltics, and it makes sense for all VCs to come over.
I have an example. We did a Silicon Valley Comes to the Baltic, and as basically was event for the Silicon Valley Come to the Baltics. It's a free of charge event. It's around 3,500 people from around the Baltics. So for me, it doesn't matter. Vilnius, Tallinn, Riga, which airport. I think, you know, the one Queen of England, I guess it was Victoria who said, it's not England which is big, it's the world is small. So, and of course I should not be speaking, but I would like to turn the question to you, right? Because here a lot of people are sitting and wondering, because there is a lot of startup wannabes, there is a people who are, you know, at their startups. What are the coming trends? I mean, where we should draw our attention, right, to build the next generation pan-Baltic startups? Because I think for these guys, it's a very key information. And you as investors, and you as a bloggers, and you know, as you see it, the way industry is moving, where you see the niches and where you see the possibilities.
Yeah. So before answering that, so I proposed to Estonian Prime Minister that let's make Estonian startup event in Riga, somewhere close to the airport, because Estonian flight connections are miserable for any investor. And of course, no, we're going to do a Estonian startup in Riga. But this is a kind of mindset we really need to change. Why not? If it makes sense for startups in this region, if this is the easiest way to connect to foreign VCs, so why not? But coming back to the question you had, where to focus next? I think it makes sense to look at the world's most successful startups at this point of time. And I think the wide theme is resources. The planet is, you know, overcrowded. We are running out of resources. And the key question is how we use these resources most efficiently. And 2 startups that have highest valuation right now, Uber and Airbnb. And both of them use resources more efficiently. You are using basically your next seat in the car more efficiently, or you are using your, you know, coach, or your kind of flat where you're not at home, you can rent it out. So I think this is one area where it really makes sense to look what's happening on the software side, but also on the material science and so on.
Any other trends, you know, niches where we're good at and we could develop further and be the best in the world in the Baltics? Do you see is gaming, is Internet of Things, is, you know, wearables and etc., etc.?
I would say we have some kind of themes that is standing out, and maybe there is no source of it as well. So one of the key items maybe we have not mentioned here is universities, and getting universities to the next level. I think this would have substantial impact in 5 to 10 years. The kind of entrepreneurial culture that should come from universities, and how they can, get already experience of creating startups, creating businesses. This should be organically part of universities.
Donatas?
I just want to react to event in Riga, first of all. So
near the airport, right?
It's not necessary, yeah. but we should do it, definitely. And I think let's choose the neutral event. Yeah. Not Lodgen, not any Arctic startup event, or I don't know, a Latitude 59, what you do. Let's do it. Why not? Let's do a special professional investors startups event for Baltics in Riga. And let's call it Baltic event, just placed in Riga. And Dovydas, that's something for you to do. Well, at least to initiate, okay?
I see that we come up with a conclusion, the best cooperation is to start to do the mutual events somewhere in the middle, right?
For sure.
Okay, that's very good. I'm in. But we have only 10 minutes left, and I said that these 10 minutes would go for out of the question, into the auditorium. So, coming from ideas we spoke today, do you have any questions, and would you like to ask the panelists about? So, yeah, I think, it's usually, when we've been at the Arctic Startup event, there's only, in Finland, it took 15 minutes to ask the first question. So we're not going to break the ice here because we have not enough time left. But I would like to thank you for a very nice panel, very nice discussion, and the commitment we've made, the Prime Ministers to get back in the mutual event near the airport in Riga. Thank you very much, and big applauses. Thank you.